Welcome, everyone. This is Studio W, the Buzz, your global radio network. We circle this thing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the finest of broadcasters found anywhere around the world. And now it's time for the Eden as an Act of Worship Ministries radio show with your host, Ann Woten Taylor. Good morning, my dear friend.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope you had a wonderful Good Friday yesterday. How were
Yeah.
you?
Oh, it was good. It was very good. It was very good. I
Good.
pulled the song up because I know that's one of your favorites.
It is. I needed that today. Look, I think we all needed that today to remember this is the weekend to do it, what the Lord has done for us. So we praise Yahweh. We praise the Holy Trinity of God. Glory to his name.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
after that, I'm going to step aside and yeah, I understand you have a guest here.
I do. She's a fan favorite too. She's been here several times. We have, as a matter of fact, I was looking up her bio from the last time she was here. It was almost exactly 1 year ago that Dr. Tangi was on the show because we were promoting at the time the Love Manifesto anthology. And it's funny because I hadn't published in a while. And so the Lord blessed me to be a part of two awesome anthologies last year. And last week I had Marie McKenzie on. She was the brainchild of From Stuck to Limitless anthology. And this week we got Dr. Latangela Crossfield with us. And she's the brainchild of the Love Manifesto anthology. Both of which we promoted heavily last year, and we praise God for both of those projects and all he's done to bless everybody through those projects. So we're
Outstanding.
going to tell you more about that in a little bit. But Dr. Tangi, as she likes to be called, this time is with us because she is basically a professional when it comes to history, especially Black history. And we're going to be talking about Black women's contributions to National Women's History Month. So you don't want to miss it, folks. We've got a wonderful, wonderful show lined up for you. But before we get to that, I guess I should tell you a little bit about me and why you should be listening, huh? I'm Ann Wooten Taylor. I'm the CEO of Eating as an Act of Worship Ministries, and this is the Eating as an Act of Worship Ministries radio show. Eating as an Act of Worship Ministries is a nonprofit organization. We teach the biblical principles about the body, dieting, exercising, and maintaining a healthy body for the glory of God. We do that through our 12-week health and fitness course. And the next class, if you missed the last one, is coming up in August, about August 19th or so. We'll let you know when it's time for you to start registering, but keep it on your radar because it'll be here before you know it. But we also have a lot of other ways that we'd like to help you along your health and fitness journey. And one of them is our weekly motivation, which we're about to get to right now. Our motivation is designed to encourage you to stay the course if you've been doing well on your health and fitness journey. We'd like to inspire you to get up and try again if you somehow, some way fell down along the way, and to motivate you to get healthy and fit through Jesus Christ if you haven't been able to find your own motivation. So today's motivation is entitled Give It Your All. All right, folks, let's just have some real talk. When life presents you with its challenges, problems, and unavoidable negative circumstances, the truth is you've got to respond. However, exactly how you react is entirely up to you. Whether you give up, give in, or give it your all will determine the outcome of your particular situation, even in terms of health and fitness. For example, most of you can relate to giving up in the past when it comes to losing weight. How many diet plans have you tried over the years? How many exercise DVDs, or for those of you who are old enough to remember VCRs, how many VHS tapes are in your collection? How many gym memberships have you had? Of all those things, how many have you stuck with? More than likely, none of them, or you wouldn't still be overweight. Those who struggle with eating disorders often endure a similar cycle as they look for ways to become free. Admittedly, giving up is bad, but giving in is even worse. At least when you give up, you've tried, if only half heartedly. In contrast, A person who gives in doesn't try to change at all. On the contrary, they simply accept their overweight condition because other family members or friends are fat. They don't fight to reverse hypertension, diabetes, or high cholesterol because everybody's got to die of something, right? In short, they simply acquiesce and accept defeat in the belief that it's already assured. Then there are those who do the opposite. For one reason or another, they don't give up and they don't give in. Conversely, they choose to give it their all and they don't stop until they succeed. You have more than likely experienced this in other areas of your life at some point. If you think back, there are probably many times in your life when you didn't quit, either because you didn't want to, you couldn't afford to, or you weren't allowed to. For example, we usually don't quit when it's something we enjoy, we have an interest in learning or doing, or even a passion for, like, for instance, sports, crocheting, or even something like baking. Moreover, a wise person doesn't quit a job he hates until he secures a new one. Likewise, when you were a child, your parents probably forced you to attend church, school, or extracurricular activities, just to name a few. In all of those instances, you endured the discomfort, inconvenience, and hard work that accompanies perseverance. But if you're honest with yourself, you'll admit it was always worth it for no other reason than it was proof that you're capable of achieving success. You can endure hardships and you can overcome your circumstances. In other words, you can do this through Christ. He brought you through each time before, and He's ready, willing, and more than able to do it for you again. The question is, are you finally ready to give it your all? If so, purchase your copies of the Eating as an Act of Worship workbook and the Eating as an Act of Worship Teachers Edition online today at Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. In the books, you'll learn the biblical principles about the body, dieting, exercising, and maintaining a healthy body for the glory of God. Don't forget to read our weekly blog for excuse me, which is on online. You don't want to miss it. We've got a lot of good stuff there for you too. So please do, ma'am, sir, check out our website when you get the chance. But we want to motivate you on the site, especially with our blog, to stay healthy and fit through Christ. Follow us daily on Facebook, um, Threads, excuse me, and LinkedIn and Pinterest for recipes and diet and exercise tips. And tune into our syndicated radio show on iTunes, Spotify, Studio W Buzz, and Victory KVDW 100.9 FM, 95.3 FM, and 1530 AM in Little Rock, Arkansas for interviews and health and fitness trends. Lastly, please make your tax deductible donation to Eating as an Act of Worship Ministries at www.eatingasanactiveworshipministries.org. All right, everybody, that's your motivation for today. We hope and pray it encouraged you to stay the course if you've been doing well on your health and fitness journey, that it inspired you to get up and try again if you somehow fell down along the way. And if you haven't been able to find a reason to get healthy and fit, we want to encourage you today to become healthy and fit through Christ. All right? All right, everybody. It's time now for us to introduce to you somebody that you've met before because she's been here several times and I love her to death. She's one of the first people to ever interview me because she is also a radio personality. And praise the Lord, I still have a really good relationship with a lot of the people who first helped spread the word about Eating as an Act of Worship Ministries. Dr. Latangela Crossfield is one of those people. She's a former lecturer and undergraduate advisor of history at Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. She's also a former assistant professor of history and political science at Payne College in Augusta, Georgia. Dr. Crossfield is a certified life coach, a certified human subjects research investigator, and she's an associate producer for Lisady Productions and a media personality for Lisady Media Group. She's the president and CEO of Creative Christian Works, a team of professionals and mentors who utilize biblical principles to empower individuals to get the results they desire. She earned an Associate's of Science degree in Word Processing Administration from DeKalb Community College and a Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies from Beulah Heights Bible College. She also has a Master of Arts in Christian Education from the Interdenominational Theological Center, Charles H. Mason Seminary, and a Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership, Coaching and Mentoring from Regent University. Her Doctorate of Arts in Humanities, African American Studies is from Clark Atlanta University. Thank you so much for being with us, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. How are you? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you at all. I can see you and I know you're talking, but for some reason, I can't hear you at all, Dr. Tangi. Is your mute button on your phone? Uh, Let's try now. I still can't hear you. I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. No. Let's see. I hope William maybe can do something on his end to help. How about you log out and log back in for me? Hopefully that'll work. I don't know. Can you hear me at all? You can hear me? Okay. Okay. All right, let's try that. And hopefully William will be able to play us a song until you can get back in. If you can hear me, William. I hope you can hear me. Guys, hang tight. We're going to be back in a moment with Dr. Tangi. She's having a few technical difficulties on her end, but I do want you guys to hear her because she's awesome, as you all know. Um, you've probably recall her being on the show before because, as I mentioned, Sadie Productions. She was on before to promote a play that they were doing, and that oh wow, that has been several years ago. I think that was back in 2018, maybe. Um, yeah, yeah, it was that long ago. She's been on so many times. Wow. And then of course she was on um last year when we were promoting the Love Manifesto anthology. You guys may recall that the Love Manifesto anthology was also a book with many other authors, not just Dr. Tangi and myself. As a matter of fact, Dr. Koye Oyurinde was one of the co-authors on the book, and he has also been on the show several times. He was on recently, I guess it was a month or two ago, speaking with us about the respiratory viruses that have been um, circulating quite a bit. As a matter of fact, one of my kids, if not both of them, I think the other one may have had a mild case of it, just recently got over the flu. And that's with us, getting the shots and all that stuff and trying to do the right thing to keep everybody safe. So that hadn't even, stopped yet. So please, folks, be careful, take care of yourselves, take care of your families. But as far as Dr. Tangi goes, she's very, very accomplished. She's, excuse me, not only does she, have the creative Christian works, she's, does coaching, lectures, seminars, spiritual retreats, um, and a lot of other things. For instance, she's the vice president of Caring's Core Business Enterprises LLC, which provides business development consultation and training, business startup partnership, investment funding for patents and inventions. And she was a radio show host on Inspirational Talk with Dr. Tangi. It aired on the Globe 87.9 FM. I think she's back with us. Hey, lady, did you get back in?
I hope that you
Yeah,
can hear me.
I can hear you. Awesome, awesome. I was telling people more about your very, very illustrious background while we were waiting on you to come back. How are you?
I'm fine. It's one thing I like to correct. I'm no longer affiliated with the Sadie Productions or Media Group in any way since 2017. I,
Oh
no, I'm no longer affiliated with them. I do have Love Manifesto
no. Mm-hmm.
podcast that will be hopefully in the very near future become a radio and TV show, and that's something I'm working
Awesome.
on behind the scenes. Love
Yeah.
Love Manifesto. Premise is simply to explore, to analyze, and to manifest thriving platonic, intimate, and business relationships. And so I'm
Wow.
ecstatic about what I am working on behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes. And there's one last thing that I like to add to my bio
Mm-hmm.
that I haven't added is that I think was maybe roughly 12 months ago, I became a freelance um, film producer, and that is that I pitch
Wow.
ideas
Wow.
to networks for products that I think that may be good for a TV, maybe a good TV series or a movie. And so that's something new that I'm doing.
Wow, congratulations. I love it. Love, love, love it. And are you still in the radio scene at all then? Or have you left that all together?
No, I plan to return to radio. Right now, I'm doing it as a podcast when Love Manifesto as a podcast
Mhm.
until a deal is struck that I feel that I can't refuse. What happened in the past is that um, there were times when I was told, okay, we want to bring you on, and this is how you will get paid. However, I never received a check,
Mm,
and I never received a contract. In the
mhm,
cases or the case that I received a contract, I never received a check. And so
mhm,
this time moving forward, I want to make sure that I receive a contract and that whatever's
mhm.
in that contract is adhered to, not just on my part, but also the TV station, the TV network, as well as the radio station. And so that's what's taking place right now, those
Yeah,
negotiations.
that can be hard when you think you've got a deal and then things just kind of fall apart. Yeah, I understand completely. I do. But you also are not just a television personality, not just an author, and not just a person who's about to enter into the film industry, but on top of everything else, you have studied history quite extensively. Tell us a little bit more about your love of history.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I was in school. It was never something I had planned to do. I kept taking history courses because I wanted to put student loan people at bay. And so
Right.
I kept taking those history courses on the graduate level, not knowing that 18 credit hours in any subject qualifies you to teach those
Wow.
subjects, right? And
Right.
so that's pretty much how it happened. But I do love history.
Mhm.
And my definition of history is a critical analysis of past events. It's not just about recalling information, learning dates, and so on. It's about being able to uh, get to the truth. You know, you
Mhm.
take the facts and you
Mhm.
get to the truth. And the goal here is to teach people when I was teaching actually my students to teach them how to think critically, right? Critical
Mhm.
thinking facts. Is
Right.
this a fact or is this the truth? The fact is simply saying that there's two reliable sources
Mhm.
that the powers that be deem to be reliable sources. As long as we have enough of those supporting this stance, then we
Right.
can teach this theory, right, as
Mhm.
factual. I know that that is not always lead us to the truth. So the
Right.
goal here is to unpack the truth. And so my quest for learning the truth about African American history, and more
Mhm.
specifically African American history, I started diving into African American studies. And
Mhm.
so African American studies is not just about history, but it's about other things as well, language and so on. And so
Mhm.
when I began to dive deeper into that, because it was my area of concentration, history was not, I learned a lot of things that was pleasing yet sometimes disturbing when I started
Mhm.
learning that my teacher told me some lies.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And they probably believe those lies because somebody taught it to them.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
what's happening now with this almost national effort to to actively in our faces whitewash the truth, color code the truth about just recent history that took place right here in the United States, stuff that we all know is wrong. um and then how does that, correlate to what we are seeing with the National Women's History movement? Because it seems like women's history is becoming more and more um in the forefront. It started out as like I think an International Women's Day, and now we got a whole month. Um and then on top of that, I asked you here specifically because I think Black women have contributed so much to women's history, and I don't think that is necessarily taken into account by us. We we look at Black history and we talk about what happened then and we kind of let it go. But I think this is a day that we need to celebrate us too. So what tell me your thoughts on
Well, first, I'd like to say that Women's History celebration began in 1978
it.
in,
Mhm.
I believe it was San Francisco, California. I do
Mhm.
know it was California, and it started out as a week-long celebration. And approximately, I think, 15 years later, uh,
Mhm.
no, around about 10, well, several years later, about 15 states began to celebrate women's history, but basically as a week long celebration. And then finally, it evolved into a month long celebration
Mhm.
about around the 1980s, I believe.
Mhm.
And what's so interesting is that this whole movement about recognizing women started out as an international women's celebration, an International Women's Day, and it didn't begin
Right.
in America. It didn't begin
Right.
here.
Exactly.
You know, so you would
Right.
think that we would be the ones to spearhead this movement because we're supposed to be so progressive and so productive,
Right.
but we were not. It was other countries, and I forgot exactly what country started it. When I was teaching, one of the recommendations I made, and I don't know if it's been implemented, is that we have a course about women's history. I
Mhm.
don't know if those courses are offered today or not, but I was an advocate for it because I think that it is something that we need to do because people need to
Mhm.
know about women's history. And so I land my
Right.
plane there.
Right, right. In terms of how history is being manipulated, in terms of how it's being taught, in a lot of states in our country. We focus a lot on critical race theory, but you can't talk about Black people without talking about Black women. So how is it affecting the way the history of Black women
Okay.
is being portrayed?
Okay, so before I directly answer your question, during the I believe it was 1880s, the women's suffrage began. I believe it was Susan B. Anthony and
Mhm.
one other person that spearheaded this. Black women were not allowed to march with the white women. And
Mhm.
because of that, white women decided to formulate the National Association of Colored Women. And they
Mm.
did this because the women's movement initially did not address uh, the concern of racism, right? And so
Mhm.
we have this whole notion about double jeopardy and um, triple jeopardy. And
Mhm.
that is that white women usually deal with sexism and classism. However, Black women are often faced with sexism, classism, and racism. And
Mhm.
so we're looking at two different spheres in terms of what women deal with, that is Black women and white women.
Mhm.
And then when it comes to race, that's a whole nother topic, because John, I believe it was, what's his name? John Henrik, somebody, I forgot his name, Dr. John Henrik something, said that, we're talking about race, but race, there's no such thing as race in the way that people address it, or
Right.
claim that it is, because race, we're all a part of the human race. However,
Exactly.
there's different ethnicities, but nonetheless, the National Association of Colored Women decided to move forward as an organization with Mary Churchill Terrell, I believe. It was the first president of that organization, and she felt like we need to include um, Black women's concerns. And since
Mhm.
the women's suffrage refused to do that, the National Association of Colored Women was formulated to address racism, which is one of those things that we still deal with today. Although
Right.
you may say that race is not what people say it is, but
Mhm.
still, it's something that we deal with today. And so I totally, totally agree that too often African American or Black women issues are just omitted.
Mhm.
It's one way that history books have been able to just slide by. We'll write this chapter. We just won't include these people. If
Right.
we do include these people, we'll just include something that doesn't really highlight the positive contributions of these people, right?
Mhm.
Because it's all about painting this picture of certain people to make sure that the world perceive them as the people we want them to perceive them as, rather than the truth. And
Right.
one of the things I told my students, look, I want you to come and I want you to learn what I teach you according to this book,
Mhm.
but I don't want you to walk away thinking that it's the truth. It's
Right.
all, yeah, it's all, no,
Exactly.
no, because everything, these are all facts. They're facts. Everything in here is not the truth.
Right.
I just need you to recall it so that you can get the grade you desire. Now, all students, all
I'm so
students are
glad
not interested in
that
that.
there's one real teacher out there who will tell you that. We have to
Yeah.
regurgitate this erroneous information, but that doesn't mean that
Mm-mm.
that's real life.
Exactly. I was like, no, no, you just need to do, all students are not interested in an A. They just want
Right,
to see
right.
their way through. They just want to see their way through. And finally,
Right.
my classrooms became so requested and admired. And this is the truth, that I had to be in auditoriums at Clark.
Wow.
And then there were times when I didn't have enough seats to seat everybody. And I'm thinking, well, you can
Wow.
only have so many people in here. So who are these extra people? I see people sitting on the floor and standing. And then I said, wait, let me do roll, right? I need to find
Right.
out who's in here. And I discovered that there were people in my classroom from Morehouse, from Morris Brown,
Wow.
from Spelman, from Georgia State, that kind of thing. And I said, well, what brought you here? Because you're not on my roll. You're not enrolled in this course. And they said, well, we
Right.
heard about you. So
Wow.
we
That's a
wanted to come
blessing.
see.
Wow, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. And I'm gonna audit this class, even though I got enough homework to do. I got to see this professor.
Wait, Attorney Taylor, some of them were not even auditing the class.
What?
They were just there. A lot, they were just there.
That's a blessing. Look, I'm gonna have to get you on Teens Talk Truth because my son AJ, he's an academic to his heart, and whenever I introduce him to a professor that is just awesome, he AJ gets quiet, and he's like me. He's the one that likes to talk, and he just sits and listens. And people are like, "Okay, what's the next question?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were through. I was just gonna let you keep going." Because he enjoys a good teacher, and I think that's what it is about you. People respond very well to an authentic, sincere, um passionate teacher. But then when you've got somebody who is just keeping it real, breaking it down to you, it's totally different because we really do learn things that just aren't true. I think one of the big examples of that that's come out recently, was with the film Hidden Figures. I would have never guessed in a million years that there were Black women that were working to get white people to the moon. I just never, it didn't even enter my mind that they would allow Black people to enter that building during that era. And so for us to find out their contributions, not just, to the space program itself, but how it's resonating even today, affecting the GPS that everybody loves to use,
Yes.
in their vehicles. How is it, that Black women have contributed those types of things to history, and we just, are barely scratching the surface of knowing their contributions.
Yeah. Well, I say when you omit the truth, when you omit the truth, you deceive the people.
Mm,
And too often that's intentional, because when you want to rewrite history, one easy way to do that is just omit information, right?
mm,
It's
mm.
just it's just easy to omit information, and so you mislead people and you make people think something um, is happening that's not happening, just in the omission process.
And I think it has an effect on us. One of the reasons why we talk about so many different things on this show is because health isn't just what you look like physically. You've got your mental health, your physical health, um, your emotional health, which I separate from just the mental, and then you've got your spiritual health too. And I
Mhm.
think when you can't see yourself reflected in a positive light, not just in your everyday world, but even, you know, in those who've come before you, that it does have an effect on the way you see yourself, the way you think about yourself, and of course, anytime you've got those types of negative thoughts, it can affect you in all those other areas of your life too. Um, you tell me what you think. How being scrubbed from history has played, African American women.
Absolutely. When we are not included in a positive light, we think that we're not worthy of being talked about. We think negative of ourselves. Let's say, for example, the Barbie. Barbie at one time was just strictly a white female with
Right.
blue eyes and blonde hair. And so now everybody's subscribing to be like Barbie because they feel like that's the epitome of beauty. And that
Mm,
if you don't look like Barbie, then you're ugly, right?
mm,
Same with it comes to historical information. If you're reading a book and all of these heroes are people who do not look like you start
right.
feeling inferior in a way.
Mm,
If you're not strong minded, if
right.
you know the truth, that's what you start thinking. You're like, you know what? Apparently, uh, our people are not capable of any of these things, because none of us, the people that we see in these books, do not they're not African American, or they're not black, or they're not what have you. Then
Mm,
apparently the only heroes that exist are the people in this that look like the people in this book. And so that's just what children in particular do, and then
mm,
even adults arrive at that conclusion. But yeah,
mhm.
I hope that I answered your question.
Oh no, you did. You did. So what are some of the things that you would recommend women do, especially Black women, to find out more about their contributions, women's contributions to American history, if not world history?
Well, some of the things that I recommend is that you research and discover the truth for yourself. We have the internet, and everything on the internet is not the truth. Okay,
Right.
so
Obviously, obviously. But there's a lot of good resources
there are a
available.
lot of good there are a lot of
Yeah.
good resources available, right? So
Yeah.
you can do your own research, and I think as African American women and or Black women, that we need to teach others starting
Mm,
with our own offsprings, starting with
mm,
our family members.
mhm,
Whenever the opportunity presents itself, seize a moment. It could be 2 minutes or 3 minutes that you
mhm,
can share the truth about even your own ancestors, their contributions to society. Because I believe it was 2011 when former President Barack Obama was talking about, Women's History Month is about us remembering ordinary women's contributions to society. It's not
mhm,
just women who's become successful.
mhm.
Ordinary women also too, behind those who are behind the civil rights movement was women who
Right,
was cooking the food. There were
right,
people who was raising the money. I mean, how dare us not recognize their contributions to the civil
exactly,
rights movement? Yeah,
exactly.
because even
Opening their homes up because
absolutely.
you couldn't go to hotels, you
See,
know, and things like that back then. In the South, you
right.
better know somebody.
That's it. That's it.
So
That's
they were opening their homes. They were just being so hospitable to people and feeding people, just caring for folks who weren't even, their own blood kin, and making sure that the movement moved forward without that kind of an interruption. How do you quantify that type of of um contribution? Because I don't think people realize those little things and how important it is to the success of the whole. You couldn't have all those people coming together to march if, they can't go and stay in the Hiltons and the Marriotts and all that those kinds of places. I don't think that gets to be as understood in the forefront of everybody's mind the way that it should.
well, in short, I would say that somebody has to take ownership of movements. If you
Mm,
see a need, such as the National Association of Colored Women, the
mhm,
establishment of it, all it takes is one person to tell someone else, and that person tells someone else that you will come together and say, look, we need to make a difference. And this is why we need to do this and get people
mhm,
to buy into it. The thing that we have to remember that anytime we start a movement, that people at the forefront of it need to feel like their voices are heard too. They're not looking for a dictator, right? They're looking
right.
for someone that will allow their voice to be heard within that organization, within
Mhm,
that movement. Because
mhm,
when people feel like they are part of what's going on, an intricate part, they are buy into it.
mhm,
They are more committed to it, as
mhm,
opposed to you're saying, okay, I'm going to do A, B, and C, but this is
mhm,
how it's going to be done, and without considering other people's input.
mhm,
In terms of quantification, I'm not exactly sure at this moment how to do that.
mhm.
I'd like to know what your suggestions are in
Well,
terms.
no, I think you just answered the question. I don't think we can quantify how important that is. We like to look at the scale of things. When you think about the march on Washington and you see all those people there, but the skeleton, the backbone of that, that you were talking about, where were these people staying? What were they eating? They had to travel to and from, and who was behind the scenes doing all those things, who was getting the word out, and how it was happening. I don't think we can really quantify how much of a contribution Black women paid um, in order to make those events successful. But I personally think you answered it beautifully. I don't think we can do it. I just don't. um, I do want to ask you, you know, what are some, like what are some of the little known facts that people may not even know about Black women's contributions, things that we haven't been taught, haven't been told, and need to know about.
Well, Some of the Black women that come to mind when I think about contributions to um, women's history would be first Phyllis Wheatley. Phyllis
Mhm.
Wheatley was born, I believe it's around 1710 or 1777, something like that. But she was a young Black girl that was taken from Africa, sold into slavery, and to what people at that time will consider a good white family, because that family did allow her to learn how to read and write. They did allow her to travel to distant places with them, and they did encourage her to express herself through poetry. In fact, she became one of the first Black female poets in America, if not the world. And so Phyllis Wheatley uh, did some great things. She was, I think she also spoke another language as well. And I think very few people are aware of this poet, because oftentimes when we think about a Black female poet, we think about Maya Angelou, right?
Right,
We
right,
think
right.
about her. I wouldn't be surprised if some people feel like she's the first Black famous female poet there is, but she isn't. It was Phyllis
Mhm.
Wheatley. In fact, Phyllis Wheatley is also considered one of the first African American published authors, if my memory
Wow.
serves me well. Yeah, Phyllis Wheatley. Yeah.
Wow, wow. And I believe I heard of her because I majored in English and stuff. If I'm not mistaken, we had to study her poems because her name came to mind as soon as you said it. I was like, I know Phyllis Wheatley. I
Yeah.
do remember that particular name.
Yeah.
But I believe knowing about women like Phyllis Wheatley and their contributions to women's history, not just American American African American history is important. And of course, we do have a lot of history being made right before our eyes. I mean, Kamala Harris, come on now.
Yes.
we
Yes.
you know we
Right.
we can see that shining star on a daily basis
Yes.
because she's living breathing history right before our eyes. Ketanji Brown Jackson's another one,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Supreme Court justice.
Yes.
um and so we've got those people right here and right now. I just think it's really important for us to know about those who came before,
Right.
and to kind of expose those hidden hidden figures.
Right.
Now, you mentioned that there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, but there are a lot of um, good resources. What are if people really want to know, especially women, more about African Americans women's contributions. What are some of those resources that you would recommend?
I would say that what is the name of this museum in New York? Lord have mercy.
Not the
There's a museum.
Smithsonian, is it?
I think that it's the Smithsonian, and there's also one in Washington, D.C. that opened about 5 years ago. I think it was right before um, the COVID pandemic.
The
And
one on that's by the Capitol, the African
yes,
American.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Both of them are good resources. And also African HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. If
Hmm.
you go to their library, if you can gain access to them, you'll find a lot of stuff that you will not find in history books. Not at
Wow. Wow. You and I talked about that before because we were talking at one point about Juneteenth, and you were educating me on yeah, that there's even more to that story than than we realize because there were still some people who were enslaved even after Juneteenth because they that weren't um um uh free until there was a treaty between the United States and Native American tribes that held some enslaved people. Not all the tribes, but some of them did.
Mhm.
And so it's like, wow, there's still so many different layers to peel back that we don't know about, that a lot of people are still unaware of. What do you say, to those of us who are like, will I ever be able to learn everything about people who look like me? Will I ever be able to know the full truth?
Okay, I like to circle back to a comment before I answer that
Yeah.
question. There were African Americans who were still enslaved in certain sharecropping um,
Mhm.
companies. I would just say companies up
Mhm.
into the 1940s. And people
Wow.
talk about that. It was the 1940s. People were
Wow.
still recaptured and enslaved on these sharecropping companies. That's what I refer to them as. And so,
Wow.
and back to what you were saying, it was something else I wanted to add. What some people don't realize is that they can actually, I think it's age 65, you can
Mhm.
actually attend places like Emory University and other colleges and universities for free.
Wow.
For free. So
Wow.
if you want to learn anything, it doesn't have to be history, whatever it is. In fact, I think also and Harvard, and I think it's another Ivy League will allow you to take courses there as well.
Wow.
Yeah, for absolutely free. And in some cases, get certifications, get
Mhm.
degrees, all of that.
Isn't that
So,
something?
yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, look, this is another one of those enlightening conversations, which is why she's one of the perfect people to talk to about this. Um, eh, eh, but anyway, I think I cut you off from answering the rest of your the
No,
question.
no, you can interject at any time, anytime.
Thank
I'm
you.
familiar with the flow of this because I've done this now.
I know, right? I
Yeah, so
know.
I'm not, it doesn't concern me at all.
You were really sweet to me when William approached me about having the show. I was like, Dr. Tangi, can I pick your brain a
Yeah.
little bit? Because I don't know how to do this. Um, and she was very gracious and kind to me when I went to her to ask questions. So thank you so much, Dr. Tangi, for being just a good friend over the years. It's hard to believe that we've known each other since, I guess, about 2015. Has it been that long?
Yeah, yeah, it's been that long. Yeah,
I
almost 10 years.
know. Because this show started October 1st, 2016. So yeah, you interviewed me before the show started. So it was either 2015 or 2016 when you and I met. So it's
Mhm,
been a while.
mhm.
And we've, uh, not just known each other, but become friends and colleagues working together on a book. So a lot has happened in that time. Um, I like to think about the contributions, of people that we know, like folks like Kamala Harris, and
Mhm.
people we may not know as well, like people like Phyllis Wheatley. But you mentioned, you know, ordinary women, everyday women, people whose names may not be household names, that are still, even to this day,
Mhm.
making contributions to history, even though they may not be well known, or their names may not ever be known. What do you say to those who, you know, feel like, "What is this in vain? Am I doing all of this and it's not going to make a difference?" Do you have any encouraging words for them?
Well, behind every great person are people of great value.
Mm,
They are not good when it comes to presentations, but they're
mhm,
great when it comes to research. They're
mm,
great when it comes to organizing things. Um, I think about some of the work that I've done behind the scenes for other
Mm-hmm.
people who are on greater platforms than I am on, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could not arrive at that destination without people of great value. They're
Mm-hmm.
nameless people. My research interests are writing about unsung heroes, and that's something I plan to do in the very near future because those voices need to be heard. They
Mm-hmm.
may never become famous, but you're being heard through the voices of those that you've already assisted. And
Mm-hmm.
so just be grateful for the contributions that you've made because some of these people will never become who they are without your contribution because you are of
Right.
great value. And
Mm-hmm.
so people just need to know, yeah, I did that, but do it from the bottom of your heart. Do it without
Mm-hmm.
strings attached. You are
Mm-hmm.
still of great value because if you were not, those people who made it on the platforms that they are would have never reached out to you.
Exactly. And one of the things I think for every woman, um, every single woman, especially those of us who have experienced um, motherhood, and got the child to adulthood, you need to recognize that you are definitely a part of history
Yes.
just because you have given birth to the next generation, if for no other reason at all. Without us, there would be no history because there would be no future. You need a woman to to bring life into this world and give rise to the next generation. But not only that, um, when it comes to shaping a person into who that person is meant to be, into what it is they will contribute to society. I think mothers play a huge role, not to take anything away from fathers. I think we both do our part, but can you imagine um what it was like to be Elijah McCoy's mother? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
we know the real McCoy, but his mother was a former slave. She and her husband both, and they obtained their freedom and went to Canada and then sent their son to school in Europe, and
Yeah.
he, came back and did some phenomenal work as an inventor. We still know his name today. So, no, you don't know, you may not know Elijah McCoy's mom, but you know that he had one. And she was instrumental in making him the man that he was. And so I believe if in no other way, women everywhere should celebrate themselves for the contribution that women make to just making sure that the species propagates, but not only that, for how we help to shape the next generation. What do you think? Is that a
Yeah.
viable argument? Or
Absolutely. You made me think about Sojourner Truth during the 19th century, how she gained her freedom from slavery. Actually, she was born in New York, was sold
Mm,
into slavery. I think it was around 1810 to some abusive slave owners. And she
mm,
finally said, I'm out of here. So she
right.
escaped and she helped also people gain their freedom through the Underground Railroad
Hmm.
as well. And so, along with Harriet Tubman. So, Harriet
Hmm.
Tubman was not the only one. Sojourner Truth also helped Black people gain freedom um, from slavery via the Underground Railroad.
Right.
You guys, for those of you who don't know, it was not a tangible railroad. Okay.
Exactly. Looking for the tracks. No, no.
It was not that. So, so
Ah,
they
and
had
looking
to
for
be,
a choo choo.
yeah,
No caboose.
exactly. So they had she and others had to be very strategic
Right.
about how they do this, and they came up with quilts with images. You know the emojis that we use today.
Right. Right.
Yeah, images that conveyed a story for
Mm,
people to decipher what's the next step. I've arrived here, so now what's the next step? And so you're saying that, oh, these people were illiterate, they were stupid, they were dumb, but these are the people that created a language of which you did not understand, but they
Exactly.
understood.
Exactly. Including the songs. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't know the songs were a way to communicate.
exactly.
So you had to be, they had to be creative in, I mean, they were like the best spies. um, they had to be creative in how they helped one another, and it was a network of people. You couldn't do that all on your own. And one of the things that I like about it is that it's a indicator of how human beings helped human beings. So there were not just black people helping black people escape, but white people were involved in the Underground Railroad too. And so I think that's what kind of scares this generation that wants to bury the truth, because you have humans being more human toward one another, whereas you have one group of people who want to be superior to all the rest, who want to be, in the majority and keep everybody else in the minority, who want to oppress instead of everybody being on equal footing. And I think that's the biggest issue that we're having right now with this historic suppression, history suppression effort or movement, if you want to call it that, that's going on. Oh, Dr. Tanger, we only have like 3 minutes left. Why?
Okay.
How does this happen when we're talking? Tell people about your books, about your podcast, when they can expect it, and just basically how they can follow you on social media, whatever you've got, events you've got coming up. This is your time, lady.
Okay, John Henry Clark is the one that talks about racism and what it really means. Uh, to,
Mhm.
to connect with me, you may do so by going to any social media platform and just plug in the name Latangela Crossfield, Dr. Latangela Crossfield, or Dr. Tangi. That's DRTANGI. If you plug those names into the internet, everything about me populates. I am the only Latangela Crossfield in the world.
That's
Sometimes
the
that
blessing.
concerns me. That concerns me. I'm like, oh, so it's easy for you to locate me, huh? So, and also, finally, I am a pre-sale film producer. So, if you have content that you feel like is worthy of being a TV series or a movie, you may also inbox me on those platforms. I don't play games now. Don't let this 5'3", 105-pound person make you think that you can. But yeah, I land my plane there, and I pass the mic back to you, Attorney Taylor.
Well, thank you so much, lady. It's a pleasure speaking to you as always, my friend. I look forward to the next time you get to grace us with your presence. Whenever you got something going on, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you promote it, and to, be a part in any way that you need me to.
Okay.
But guys, that's my time. Oh, I got to get out of the way because you know what time it is. It's time for the Teens Talk Truth radio show, hosted by my favorite young men on the planet, my sons, AJ and Alex Taylor. They discuss hot topics affecting teens in our society. And you don't want to miss it because y'all know by now that my kids are subject to say whatever comes to mind. So stick with us. And then don't forget, tomorrow is Resurrection Day, and we hope and pray you all have a blessed and happy Resurrection Day. So, Studio W Buzz, um, Boomerang Radio Show will be taking a break in honor of Resurrection Day. So, I won't get to talk to you guys tomorrow, but come back. We'll be with you the next week. Okay, everybody? All right. That's my time, folks. Love you. See you next time.
Outstanding broadcast. So you mean I don't get my therapy tomorrow, right?
William, you get something better. Go eat some lamb. Drink of his, eat of his broken body, drink of his shed blood. Do these things in remembrance of our Lord tomorrow. That's your theory.
Excellent show as always, Ann. And Dr.
Praise the Lord.
Sanji, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. All right. Hey guys, enjoy your Saturday, and we'll see you the next time. Keep it locked right here on the Buzz.